What's up everyone, thank you for tuning in. I've been wanting to do this video for a while now, but finding time to do so and do it under the right conditions have seemed to be very challenging. I was finally able to do it, not under the conditions I wanted to, but the information I wanted you guys to get from it will, in my opinion, will still get across from it. I'll talk about it after I play the clip, but first off, let's talk about it. This video is going to be for all you A20, A1 carbureted engine owners that want to do some sort of performance upgrade to the engine, but either don't know where to start on a carbureted engine, or you're unable to convert to fuel injected or find a fuel injected model. I will tell you, if you want to do any sort of performance build on an A20, that if you can convert to fuel injection, do so. Fuel injection has a lot of pros over carbureted engines, especially nowadays with all technology. But if you guys can't do it, which I totally understand, 2020 is right around the corner. Finding parts for it, at least alone finding an LXI or an SEI in somewhat good condition, is very difficult to find even now. It's going to get even more difficult as time goes on. So the A20 A1 engine came out of factory with under 100 horsepower. So even considering building a performance build out of it does seem a bit laughable and illogical to do. But there have been members in the past, and I'm talking like almost over 10 years ago, that have built all motor A20 A1s carbureted and have made some power that is still to this day, in my opinion, is pretty unbelievable. In this next clip, this should show you a good example, in my opinion, what a good A20 A1 street level performance setup should look like. It's in an 87 Accord hatchback. The engine is completely internally stock. It has a Weber 3236 progressive carburetor. I'll get into details about different types and stuff like that after the video. It has an OBX 4-to-1 header going into a custom 2¼ inch exhaust system. It has a Carter external model number P4070 fuel pump. It has an ACT clutch as well as pressure plate, and it has a first generation Integra ZC first through fourth gear as well as final drive setup inside the Accord transmission. So those are all shorter gears. So here's the clip, guys. This isn't I'm not showing off, telling my car is fast. None of the cars I own are fast. They're all slow pieces of crap. So just get that out of the way. I'm not trying to show off or nothing. This is purely just for information. The video doesn't really do justice. I really want to get on it a little bit more than I did, but just given the situations, which you guys will find out, you guys will see why. Have it, the slowest pull in YouTube history, but hopefully it kind of gives you guys a good example of what the short gearing Integra gears look like. Basically, if you guys notice, between each shift that I did, the tachometer needle would drop about, give or take, 1,000 RPMs, which is a good thing if you built your engine to be optimized at a certain RPM range. So where every time you do your shifts, it's gonna fall within that optimum range your engine has been built for. So yeah, so hopefully I get the point across. It wasn't fast video, and I didn't really take up the red line because these engines pretty much start bogging down after 5,500 RPMs, give or take. So anything really past that, after 5,500 or 5,000 RPMs, you're gonna be starting losing power no matter what. Okay, so let's talk carburetors. The carburetor I have is a Weber 3236 progressive carburetor. Now what makes it progressive is it's good for fuel economy, because when you're driving around town, just like at maybe a quarter to almost halfway throttle, you're going to be utilizing a 32 millimeter barrel only, which will be good for like low RPM range. As soon as you go wide open throttle, the 36mm barrel will open up, and then you're going to get more power around mid-range, and it'll start dying off from there. So it's a good all-around economy carburetor. Definitely way better than the OEM carburetor. So if your OEM carburetor and your A20A1's going out, I highly recommend just take it out, replace it with a Weber, get rid of all the vacuum line stuff you don't need, and then you're going to be golden. The car will react and drive a lot different just from that, I promise you guys. You guys can even pass smog if you guys know how to rejet it and retune it. There's a lot of videos on YouTube showing you how to do that, and you guys should be fine there. If you guys want to move up the RPM band from low to mid-range to a little bit for mid and high, there's the Weber 3838, which is non-progressive, which means no matter where you're at the throttle, both the throttle plates are going to be moving all the time. You may lose a little bit of low-end power from it, and you're going to start seeing more power gain around mid-range to high range. That would be like your next cheapest upgrade from there. But at that point, I highly recommend you guys probably have already done other bolt-on stuff, exhaust systems, definitely maybe even a cam. Increased compression would be nice. You guys should notice a difference from all that, and that carburetor should help with that. And then if you guys want to get crazier from that, the next step would be going to the dual carbs, Weber DCOE 40. Guys, stick with a 40, don't go with a 45. I know the bigger the barrel sounds better, but trust me, it's the size of the Venturi, guys, is what you guys need to worry about. You can always change the size of that, which is going to affect how the car goes depending on whatever build you're actually going to do. I promise you, if you guys stick with the DCOE 40 and you do a cam, head work, increased compression, that 40 will still do you good, will still do you good before you ever max out its capabilities of what it can give to you from there if you plan on doing an all-motor build. Now, the only catch with going to dual carbs with the DCOEs is that you're going to need an adapter manifold to go to the A20 head to go to those carburetors. A company called Extruda Body used to make them. They are no longer in business. The company I found right now is called Pierce Manifolds out of Gilroy, California, and they have an adapter manifold. I'm looking at it right now for $451. So $451 for gaskets and the adapter manifold. It's about, last time I checked, around $700 to $800 for a pair of Weber DCOEs. That's over $1,000 just for a carb setup. That's going to be a headache to tune. It's not impossible. You guys can do it. There's information out there how to do it. Don't freak out. But there's ways to do it on that route. Now, let's continue off from that. So, what's a cool thing that's kind of uncommon but people have done for years? You can turbo a carburetor. Okay, so before we start talking about turbo setups, which will actually be brief, let's talk about fuel pumps. So I'm running the Carter model P4070 external fuel pump. This fuel pump is highly recommended to go hand in hand with a Weber 3236 and a 38 Weber. Basically, those carburetors in general like low PSI, but with high fuel flow rates. So the ideal PSI for 3236 and the 38 is around 4 to 5 PSI. Now, the fuel pump is listed and they usually say it's rated from anywhere from like 4 to 8. There's people that put it on fuel gauge or fuel pressure gauge and they've seen it as low as 3 PSI. I've had mine for years with an inline fuel pressure gauge and it's always read 5 PSI, and it's like, that's pretty optimal for where it's at. I'm not running a regulator either. In fact, the regulator is discouraged. So I'm not really, as funny as it sounds, I'm not too knowledgeable on carbureted setups and the whole carbureted world as much as it may appear. I'm just telling you what I know from experience and for what the research that I have done. So there's that. If you guys decide to do go with a 3236 Weber, make sure to go pick up a Carter P4070. You can get them off Jegs for like 65, 70 bucks at max. Just like use that, route that in, and then you guys are good to go. Okay guys, so for the record, I just want to let you know I'm not too knowledgeable in crazy carbureted setups, especially when it comes to involving turbos or nitrous. I'm going to tell you what I know, and hopefully you guys can use the base knowledge that I know of it and further in your research to help with your build if you decide to go turbo or nitrous for your Weber build for your car. So yeah, let's get going. I actually drew a little diagram. Please don't give me too much crap on my artwork. Hopefully this helps draw in a better idea of it. So there's two types of routes you can go turbo your carburetor. There's draw through and there's blow through. Draw through setup is when you're gonna have your carburetor pulling in ambient air and then mixing up the air and fuel in the carburetor. That gets sent to the turbo, and then air and fuel and the turbo will compress all that, send it to the intake manifold, and then to the engine. Now, typically with these setups, you can't run an intercooler with it or a blow-off valve. It's just like a very simple setup. It definitely has its drawbacks, but most of it being like heat related, but some people have resolved it from running like a water meth injection system into it. I'm not too knowledgeable on how that works. Like I get how chemical wise it can cool down temperatures, but other than that, that's as far as I'm gonna go is explaining that. Next is blow through, which is the most common route I see people go with. Blow through is gonna go with, it's gonna go from the turbo. That's going to send the compressed air to the carburetor, which is why the carburetors typically need to be reinforced. Now, there are companies that sell turbo-ready Weber 3236s and whatnot. You can actually probably even send in your Weber 3236 or 38 to that company, and they can get a boost ready for you. There's a lot of how-tos on YouTube that I found where people can explain to you what you can do to prepare your Weber for turbo. Anyway, I digress from that. So anyway, turbo sends all the compression to the carburetor. Carburetor gets that, as well as the air fuel mixture gets into the intake manifold, to the engine, and then like typical kind of fuel injected setup, and that goes back. I can get through sent through an intercooler and then back in it again. So very similar to a fuel injected setup. And as I said, most people go through that route. The biggest thing that people have problems with going this route is just tuning with the carburetor and then just prepping it for where it doesn't pretty much fail from blowing like gaskets and other stuff. Okay, and another thing you're gonna need, I believe it's called a rising adjustable fuel pressure regulator. So basically every 1 PSI of boost, you need an increase of 1 PSI of fuel pressure. So remember I was saying that the Weber 32, 36, and 38s require about 4 to 5 PSI of fuel pressure without boost. So that's what it should be all the time. So for an example, so you're just cruising, you're at 0 PSI boost, you should be at 5 PSI fuel pressure at 0 PSI boost. Now, as soon as you start hitting boost, 6 PSI fuel pressure at 1 PSI of boost. So, and then so on and so forth. So if you go to 2 PSI of boost, you should be at 7, and then 3 PSI, 8. So yeah, that's how it should work. Now, some of you guys may be thinking like, well, if I'm gonna be running 5 PSI of boost, why don't I just keep my fuel pressure regulator at like 10 PSI all the time? Well, because if you keep it at 10 PSI all the time, when you're not in boost, you're gonna end up flooding the carb and then things aren't gonna be working right. So that's why. So as far as a nitrous setup goes on a carburetor, I mean, that's been done for many, many years. But as far as nitrous itself, I haven't had any personal experience with it. I know enough about it to talk about it, I think. So we'll go about it like this. So for the Weber 32, 36, and 38s, there is a company that I found that does make a plate for it that's already pre-drilled for the injectors for the nitrous. You guys can save the money of doing that if you guys have a means of drilling and tapping for the let's just for example like for the NOS or NOS kit. If you guys were to get like the wet kit, which is going to be for solenoid for the fuel as well as the nitrous itself, which I highly recommend doing it just because it's on the safer side. You guys can do it that route and just use the existing adapter plate for the A20 A1 intake manifold, and then just drill and tap that out for the fuel and nitrous injectors, and then you should be good to go on that. Definitely start off small, like 50 shot, and go to 75 shot, and so on and so forth. I don't know like I don't know what the highest shot anyone's ever gone with, members wise, but it's definitely doable. As far as anybody that's planning on doing this on a Weber DCOE setup, I'm not too sure how you would go about it. I actually on a BMW forum that I seen the guy actually drill and tapped out the runner on the actual manifold adapter for the Webers for his engine. Did it right there on the runners of the adapter of itself, instead of doing a direct shot of it in the throttle body, which I kind of thought is what would be ideal for doing it. I've seen somebody do like a direct shot into ITBs before, but so again, I don't know. I don't have any experience with it. I don't know what tuning would be like with that. I don't know how it would atomize throughout that whole system. So that's where I'm going to leave that at. All right, I want to wrap this up. I'm going to leave a lot of links in the description for you guys to hopefully go check out to help with your build. A lot of good write-ups on there, as well as some parts and stuff you guys can check out to see what you need for your build. I want to end this with a little list, a little like build sheet, so to speak. This is all my opinion. You guys can go about it however you want. If I knew what I knew now and was able to go back in time and do this again, this is how I would go about it. So an ideal street build would be going with a Weber 3236 progressive carburetor or 3838, and then I would pair that up with a external fuel pump with a Carter P4070 or an equivalent fuel pump. If you guys click on the Carter link to see the specs of it and you find another fuel pump that delivers about the same, if not better specs than this, that's fine, but I can tell you from experience, you can't go wrong with the Carter P4070. Third thing, if my OEM carburetor is working great, this is probably the first thing I would go source out and do. Get a first generation Integra 1985 to 89 transmission and get the first through fourth gear or fifth gear if you want, as well as the final drive. Now, the reason why I say first through fourth is the fifth gear in the Accords is longer, which would be better at like cruising. So if you guys are cruising around 75, you'll be staying in at like around 3,000 RPMs, which is nice. I'll just give you a quick rough estimate on why you want the final drive. I'll give you all the final drive ratios. So the carbureted and fuel injected Accords, to my knowledge, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and reverse are all the same gear ratios. The only difference are the final drives. So the final drives for the carbureted is 3.86. For the fuel injected, it's 4.06. And the Integra is 4.21. So there's pretty good increase there. Now you guys can use the second gen Prelude final drive as well from that A20 series. I don't know what the final drive gear ratio is. It's somewhere in between the fuel injected and the Integra. So if you guys can't find an Integra but you find something out of a Prelude, then you guys can go do that. You'll see an improvement there. And then lastly, upgrading the exhaust system, get a header. OBX 4.1, that's what I have. I don't recommend it just due to the design. You guys can also go with a pace setter 421 ceramic header. Personally, I don't go with that. I got nothing wrong to say about that. It's just for the price and for what it is, and I've never really seen any like dyno specs comparing OEM to that. It's just not really worth the money to me. The only header I would buy if I could find one, which is like the rare one, is a DC Sports used to make a header for our cars, but those come up very rarely nowadays. I personally would just try to source out, if you don't have one, an OEM A20 421 header, and then just go that route. Honestly, that's what I would use. And then just go with a custom 2.25 or 2.5 exhaust system. I have the 2.25 exhaust system in the hatchback in the video you've seen. If I could do it all over again, I probably would have gone with the 2.5. Just because you guys can do your own research on back pressure and all that stuff, but 2.5 would be for me, max on how I would go on a naturally aspirated setup like this. And now we're going to move on to a more aggressive street and more race orientated build. Again, it's only my opinion. Go Weber DCOE 40 or 45 dual carbureted setup. Upgrade the cams to a 272 or 285 grind cams. It doesn't have to be those two. It can be any other grind you want depending on your setup. These are just the two grinds that I've seen people use and have had great success with. This is the most important part, whether you're going, well, definitely if you're going to go with a naturally aspirated setup and even forced induction, the cylinder head, built cylinder head, head work, porting, polishing if you want, valve job, throwing in some bigger valves, which you can do. You can do it. Just search 3Gs, bigger valves. There's a whole write-up on it. You guys can also use the A18 head, which will bolt right onto the A20 block out of the second gen Preludes. The benefit of doing that is it's slightly, and I really mean slightly, I don't know what the numbers are, increases the compression, which increased compression is always good. You guys can also throw in A20, A3 fuel injected pistons, because they put out a slightly higher compression than the carbureted pistons, or just go with custom pistons. Diamond Racing Pistons have made pistons for our cars before. You guys can do the B20 pistons, B20 out of the CRV, and link them up with B18 non-VTEC LS rods. There's a whole write-up on that on the 3Gs forum. Look that up. And then fifth and lastly, if you guys want to go big and go home, go turbo or nitrous. So there you have it. Again, it's only my opinion. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.